Fox News host Bret Baier asked the assembled collection of Republican would-be presidents on the debate stage Wednesday which of them would support former President Donald Trump if he were the GOP nominee and had been found guilty convicted in any of the 4 criminal cases against him. Every hand eventually went up save 2, a pair of former governors tucked away on stage right, New Jersey's Chris Christie and Arkansas's Asa Hutchinson. The two have forged a lonely path in the 2024 primary season by representing the minority of Republicans who prefer to see Trump anywhere but on next year's ballot. With Trump's commanding lead in the polls, and Christie and Hutchinson languishing in the single digits in Iowa, it may seem odd to suggest that they might stand the best chance of keeping him from regaining the White House. But that may be the case, thanks to a Reconstruction-era addition to the Constitution. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment states, in brief, that no person who previously swore to support the Constitution but then engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof, can be allowed to hold any federal or state office. As Republican candidates for president who say they believe Trump is unfit for office, one or both of them should sue to keep him off the ballot. During Wednesday's debate, Hutchinson noted that he said over a year ago that Donald Trump was morally disqualified from being president again because of the role he played in the January 6, 2021, attack on the U.S. Capitol. More people are understanding the importance of that, including conservative legal scholars, who says he may be disqualified under the 14th Amendment from being president, again, as a result of the insurrection, Hutchinson added. And so obviously, I'm not going to support somebody who's been convicted of a serious felony, or who is disqualified under our Constitution. The conservative legal scholars Hutchinson referenced include University of Chicago law professor William Baud and Michael Stokes Paulson, a professor at the University of St. Thomas School of Law. They wrote an upcoming law review article that not only lays out why Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is still in effect, despite Congress granting amnesty to Confederates in the late 19th century, but also why the section disqualifies Trump. Since the draft version of their article was published on SSRN earlier this month, more voices have joined Baud's and Paulson's, including J. Michael Luttig, a former federal judge on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit, and Lawrence Tribe, an emeritus professor at Harvard Law. Luttig and Tribe argued in The Atlantic that this provision of our Constitution continues to protect the Republic from those bent on its dissolution. The question is how to take that legal analysis from theory into practice. It's one that's going to have to be answered quickly, as the first challenge to Trump's eligibility was filed in a South Florida federal court Friday. Stephen Calabrese, a law professor at Northwestern and Yale and co-founder of the Federalist Society, has suggested a candidate, specifically Christie, take the lead. Chris Christie is legally injured by Donald Trump's name being on the ballot, Calabrese wrote this month at the Volokh Conspiracy, a libertarian-leaning legal blog. They draw from some similar voters. Christie should sue, if necessary, to get Trump's name off the ballot. I'd expand Calabrese's call for Christie to sue to include Hutchinson as well, especially since he seems to be well aware of the arguments in favor of Trump's disqualification. From there, the case is likely to rocket up to the Supreme Court, where it's anybody's guess at this point how the supposed originalists in the majority react to an argument that would have such major ramifications on the Republican Party. But even without a suit from either of the two candidates, the court will likely hear a case on the matter soon enough. Baud and Paulson argue that Section 3 is self-executing, meaning that there's no need for any sort of criminal conviction or action from a legislature to put it into effect. That would mean, for example, that even though Special Prosecutor Jack Smith hasn't charged Trump with insurrection-related crimes, officials could still cite the 14th Amendment as a reason to keep him off the ballot. During an appearance on MSNBC's Deadline, White House Wednesday, Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson stressed that any decision made on the 14th Amendment option would be taken carefully and with respect to the law, and that she'd seek an opinion from the state's Attorney General when the time is right. It feels worth noting that Attorney General Dana Nessel has filed criminal charges against several members of the fake electors plot in the state, a key component in several of the cases against Trump. Benson also seemed wary of the pitfalls of having officials being able to unilaterally determine who does and doesn't qualify for the ballot in a way that might skirt due process. Luttig and Tribe see an answer to those concerns in the wisdom of judicial decisions, as there's no way that somebody doesn't sue the second an election official rules that Trump is ineligible. The nonprofit group Free Speech for People, which served as counsel in the attempt to block former Representative Madison Cawthorn, Republican North Carolina, from running over his support of the insurrection in 2022, has launched a campaign to persuade secretaries like Benson to keep Trump off the ballot. And the Trump campaign is already gearing up to challenge in court any ruling that finds he's disqualified. For that matter, a suit could also come once an official determines that he is eligible. As for who would kick off that process, Luttig and Tribe predict such a legal challenge coming from someone with the standing to do so, whether another candidate or an eligible voter in the relevant jurisdiction. It's likely that a group like Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, CREW, which is even now preparing to file litigation looking for a ruling on Trump's disqualification, would be involved with assisting any voters looking to file suit. But as candidates, Christie and Hutchinson, the two Republicans who aren't praising Trump while running against him, would be perfect. If they do, though, now is the time for them to begin marshalling their forces and drafting their briefs. Because the further we drag into the primary season, the greater the likelihood that one or both men drop out of the race and lose their standing as a candidate running against Trump. Given that none of their fellow candidates seems likely to pick up the torch and run with it, now is the time to cite the Constitution and hold Trump to account.